The guest is Pastor Walker, and the issue is issues of recidivism. And of course, Reverend Walker, before we had our first commercial break, we promised that we'd give you an opportunity to continue some of the issues and some of the things that you think cause these individuals to go out, get out of the system, and then go back into the system and back and forth.
Well, I think, Dr. Haney, one thing that we have to really be clear on is the fact that some people go back into the prison system, they're reincarcerated because they, during the period of time while they were there, they didn't try to better themselves. They didn't try to do anything different. They had a mindset that I'm going to come out here and I'm going to do my thing no matter what. So they did that, you know, and they get reincarcerated and stuff like that. You know, you got that. That's there. And then you've got other people that maybe get reincarcerated because they get out and they got doors slammed in their face and they get frustrated, and because they don't have a solid support system there to help them through those rough moments of time, then they'll end up, you know, maybe absconding from parole supervision by not reporting to the parole officer, or going hanging out, or even recommitting another committing another crime. So you got that, but then at the same time, there's another part to this puzzle that's really puzzling to me, Dr. Haney, and that's the fact that, you know, you have the Department of Probation and Paroles, and I'd like to share their mission with you. It says, our mission is to minimize public risk and promote lawful behavior by the prudent, orderly release and community supervision of adult offenders at the least cost to taxpayers. Now, that's a great, that's a great mission statement, you know, to be able to supervise these adult individuals and stuff like that, making sure that they're on course and everything like that. But the reality is that's a myth. That's not really what's happening in terms of the experiences that I've had with the probations and paroles. And more so in particular, Mr. Gary Tulloch, who's the Director of Field Services, because Dr. Haney, we developed a program. God empowered us to develop a program that has 42 guidelines, and then we have a fine system in place that we use as leverage to enforce those guidelines. Everybody knows that in society, you know, if you go down the street speeding, you get pulled over and given a speeding ticket, you got to pay a fine. You know, they supervise you on parole. If you don't pay, you know, parole fees and all that stuff, they'll violate you and all that stuff like that. Professional ball players, you know, if they're late for practice, they'll pay a fine. So a fine system with checks and balances and things like that, that's as American as apple pie. You know what I'm saying? And nobody, any true law-abiding citizen does not have a problem with that type of system in place, especially when you consider that we live in the United States of America, and we have a judicial system, and we have policies, procedures, guidelines, and all these things like that. So we developed our program with that. But then, you know, I was having a problem because I was bringing people out of the prison system, and people was falling by the wayside because my desire is to help people, and they were falling by the wayside because what happens, Dr. Haney, they make a commitment to say, I'm gonna involve myself in your program for 90 days when I get released. They know up front what the guidelines are. They know what they have to do. But then some of them would get out, and then they would start complaining to the parole officers about this guideline, that guideline, and the parole officer was allowing them to move from the place and stuff like that. And then what happened was the person, they moved from the structured environment that they had paroled into, and now they're out there failing. So they actually been set up to fail in a situation like that.
By taking them out the program itself.
By taking them out the program. Absolutely, because our program is structured. You know, you got groups to go to, you got church to attend, you got Bible study to attend, you got to work your job, pay your program fees, and it's supervised, you know, and it's structured. And when you're taking them out and doing that, so I had an issue with that. So I called the Department of Probation and Parole and tried to schedule a meeting. I talked to Betty also. She threw this little mock meeting together in which she did not attend, a couple of parole officers attended, but I still was no results. So this issue kept going on and on. She even told me, said, well, you know what y'all do is start charging the money up front to come out. I said, it don't have anything to do with the money. You know, because we were bringing people in our program free, no cost, helping them get their ID, you know, food stamps, get them all situated and trying to help them get jobs and stuff like that. So it wasn't
these were some of the things the state was not doing.
No, definitely, state, they don't do that. I mean, they just, all you do is pop in the parole office, show yourself up, and pay your supervision fee, and you're a done deal. You know, that's it. That's all they do. They don't even know if you really stand at the place you're staying at. You know, and I know this for a fact, you know, because I dealt with them on that issue. And, you know, but, you know, and we're going along. We're on the approved halfway house list and all that, what they call it. And I called in to complain about this to Gary Tulloch, the Director of Field Services, And Dr. Haney, I get a letter back, and I got to read this, Dr. Haney. This just is. It said, it has come to our attention that of this agency that your program fines residents for unacceptable behaviors. Now, right then and there, I'm like, man, this has got to be something crazy here. And then he said, the purpose of this letter is to notify you that we do not feel that fining offenders, as the attached guidelines suggest, is in the best interest of the offender. So we are temporarily removing your program from the list until I respond to this letter.
Because you tried to fine them for infractions of some kind of structured kind of thing?
Absolutely. We got guidelines say if you don't come in after curfew, we have a curfew. If you're not there at curfew, you stay out all night, you got to pay a fine. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't feel like that was in the best interest of the offender. So I'm trying to say, okay, if your responsibility is to supervise these people that have been paroled back into our society, and your supervision of these people is to protect, you know, those of us in society that are afraid to say, hey, we don't want these people back out. You know, so many people in society say we don't want them back out, but since they're coming out in a supervised situation into a structured program or something like that, then, okay, we can let our guards down. We're more at ease. But then at the same time, you're telling me that I'm wrong because I have a fine system in place, just like the court system does, just like they have. You know, you technically violate somebody if they move without letting you know they move, but something is wrong with my system, you know, and that doesn't make sense to me. You know, how in the world, because there'd be a problem with finding somebody for violating the guidelines, which they should violate anyway. I mean, it should be the position of the Department of Probation and Parole to make sure that these people are living a structured life, are abiding by the laws of the state of Tennessee or whatever guidelines, the program or job or whatever else.
Well, would you say that the only outcome for not having a structured kind of relationship with these individuals that you have is recidivism?
That's it.
Because if they get out of that structure, they go back to doing the whole...
Dr. Haney, they go back. I got a letter right now from a guy that was in my program that has gone back into the system and said he wants to get back in my program. He says, not because of parole, because I'm flattening my sentence, which means I'm expiring my sentence. I need to get back in your program because I know I can get some real help there. You know, but of course, they allowed him to make that move out, and then, you know, he failed and went back to the system.
And of course, what we'd like to talk about during this last segment, as we end this particular segment, Reverend Walker, is some of the issues associated with the pardon and release of individuals, and additional kind of information that you might want to share with us concerning the sponsorship in a real sense of these particular individuals. Because if they are not able to be sponsored by your program and other programs similar to your program, then we have no alternative but to continue talking about this issue of recidivism. Because they will be right back. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The issue is the